All right, well, thank you for all coming. My name is Mike Berkwin. Today we're going to talk about preparedness for several different types of instances and disasters. So 47% of all citizens in the United States are not prepared for any type of incident. That's almost half of the population in the United States is not prepared. That's not good. 70% of all American businesses are not prepared either. 30% of those businesses, if an incident occurs, will go out of business because they're not prepared for the incident that will occur or could occur. What are the different types of incidents or disasters that could occur? Wildland fire, tornado, hurricane, earthquake, and a flood. Those are kind of natural disasters. Man-made disasters, active shooter within an organization, and domestic terrorism. We're going to outline all of those during this speech and what we can do to be better prepared as citizens. You notice in that stat there that emergency services are not on that list. Emergency services across the United States, we are prepared. We can look at several instances that have occurred throughout the history of the United States. First one was domestic terrorism back in April of '95. We had the Domestic Terrorism Act. Some gentlemen, actually two of them, decided they were going to blow up a federal building using ammonium nitrate and diesel fuel mixture. That is real antiquated, but that was the first real incident of domestic terrorism. Killing 168 people. Of those 168 people, 19 were children. The gentleman that's now been executed, we won't give out names. He rented a Ryder truck, and his conspirator rented or purchased the ammonium nitrate, which is fertilizer, and then they started stockpiling the diesel fuel. They packed this Ryder truck full of 7,000 pounds of explosive, and the detonation device was slow-moving or slow-burning detonation cord. Gentleman lit it, walked away, and 2 minutes later, that truck went off. Pretty much destroyed that entire building. What did we learn from that incident? All federal buildings now have security devices, and any federal building, there's 100 feet between the front door and the street. So it'll eliminate that blast force, and there was a lot of money that was mandated because of that act. So we do learn from these types of incidences. Unfortunately, they have to happen, but hopefully we as citizens can be better prepared for these types of incidences. In 2001, September 11th, 2001, we had another act of domestic terrorism. This time there is no explosives, but they were hijacked planes. Some groups that don't like us as citizens of the United States flew planes into the Twin Towers in New York, the Pentagon in Washington, D.C., and some passengers on the one plane overtook that plane and it dove into the ground in Pennsylvania. In that incident, 4,600 U.S. citizens were killed. Because of that incident, again, we spent a lot of money trying to eliminate that. I don't believe you'll ever see that again. That's a one-in-a-lifetime deal. With now, if a plane veers off path, they're going to get shot down. It's going to kill some people, but it's going to eliminate the damage, it's going to eliminate casualties, spent a lot of money on Homeland Security because of that incident. 2013, April 2013, almost 18 years after the incident in Oklahoma. 2 individuals again, domestic terrorism. Kind of start a pattern here. Now these are sophisticated. This is real sophisticated. Backpacks full of explosive devices that were detonated with remote control car remotes, long range remotes. These were backpacks, folks. A lot of damage. We had some casualties. We could start seeing some of this in the future. We need to be prepared for these types of incidences to start occurring. Both of those were captured. One was killed during a gunfight between law enforcement. The other one will probably serve life in prison. His trial just ended. He was found guilty. So domestic terrorism, if we can be prepared as a country and eliminate some of this. Like I said, emergency services works really well together. We need to get our citizens and our businesses prepared for these types of incidences. So a quick question for you guys. How many of all of you in my audience here are prepared for an incident? How many have a 72-hour survival kit? How many are prepared for an incident? Raise your hands. Okay. So we're gonna work on that throughout this speech. So let's talk about a 72-hour kit. What should be in your 72-hour survival kit? So let's say we have an earthquake. We configure, as an emergency response agency, which what I used to work in, we configure by the time we get everything organized, you are going to be by yourself for at least 72 hours before any type of rescue is going to occur. We have a mutual aid contract with the USAR team, Urban Search and Rescue Team out of Salt Lake City. It's going to take them approximately 8 to 12 hours to get here. And it's going to be a huge team that's going to come in. We're going to try to get our citizens help they need to get to a better place. So your 72-hour kit, you can go to ready.gov and you can print off any information concerning a 72-hour kit, but we will try to go over this actually here. What's in a 72-hour kit? Medications that you might be on. A battery-powered radio, extra batteries, cell phone charger, non-perishable food, such as beef jerky or anything that you can get some energy and some protein from. Depending on how many people are in your family, 1 gallon of water for each person. And that's going to be used sparingly. So back to the earthquake, during the initial shake, we're going to want to shelter in place. Shelter in place. So get underneath your desks at your school, underneath your desks at home, or someplace that's going to be secure within inside your home. Inside your doorway, until after the shaking stops and you can exit the building. So after the shaking stops and you exit the building, we want you to look at your hazards that are going to be outside. What are hazards? Hazards are going to be anything that's going to hurt you. Underground water mains, underground gas mains, trees, power lines. So while you're getting to your meeting place, and we've discussed in previous speeches, your meeting place is a place where everybody can meet your family can meet. And we'll talk about a meeting place that's going to be off-site in case anybody gets separated or whatever. So identify your hazards. Now all of this under the preparedness word, we want to identify these hazards and meeting places, escape routes, a primary route, and a secondary route before an incident occurs. You're going to want to practice this once a quarter, which is 3 months, or twice a year, which is once every 6 months, which is a little long. I prefer once a quarter. We've talked about testing your smoke detectors once a month. So all of that falls under preparedness. So we've identified the hazards. And there's a lot of them. And they're hazards that we don't normally think of. So identify your hazards, identify your meeting places, and identify your escape routes, primary and secondary preferably. And that includes getting out of the building, or getting out of your house, or roadways that you're going to possibly use. You know, you can drive some roadways. Look at all the hazards that are along the roadway when you go home tonight. There's a lot of hazards. Bridges. Try to identify routes without bridges. If you can get home without using a bridge, that's going to be better. Identify roadways that are clear of debris, such as trees along the roadway, power lines, anything like that. If there's a fire hydrant sticking up, you know that there's a water main that connects that fire hydrant. That's most likely going to break and be spraying a lot of water. So try to avoid those areas for your meeting place and in your escape route. So meeting place, getting back to an act of domestic terrorism, the United States government is going to eliminate cell phones. They're going to shut them off because that is a detonation device. Cell phones are being used to detonate IEDs, improvised explosive devices. So we need to learn to identify meeting places for everybody in the family that we can go to without using the cell phone to communicate, because you're not going to be able to. It's going to be shut off. So the United States government has not informed their citizens that, but that is what is going to happen, because that will eliminate the detonation device. And this is real sophisticated. They're hooked up to their cell phones. So we need to look at communication with our family prior to an incident occurring. It's going to have to be without the current use of communication that we are all used to. Everybody has a cell phone, everybody. So we've talked about your kit, your 72-hour survival kit. So we've identified some of the problems, actually all of the problems. So what's a solution to the citizens of the United States being prepared? That is a national preparedness or a national training program. What's the benefits to that? We all get the same information. So the biggest hurdle that we're going to have, I feel, is funding this program in the federal government. Once we get this funded, we have emergency managers across the United States that are absolutely phenomenal. Getting back to that, I'll touch on my point again. Emergency services in the United States is prepared for any type of incident that can occur. We are prepared. We had 2 agencies prior to 9/11 that did not get along. New York Fire and New York Police Department did not communicate, did not work together, didn't do anything prior to 9/11. During 9/11, they figured out that they can work together, and through that incident, have found out that they can use each other and have a really nice program. Because they each have resources that they can use, and they can mesh. So this national training program would be a huge benefit to the citizens in the United States as well as businesses. We could have a training program specifically for schools, elementary to college level. We're having a lot of active shooter incidences within the schools. Develop a program. Let's hire some emergency managers in these schools that can train our teachers, our assistants, our students. And this program is not far-fetched at all. So we now have this funded. So in our government system currently, we need to have an agency responsible for this mandated program. We have FEMA, Federal Emergency Management Agency. They could be responsible for this. They disperse this information across the United States to states and counties. Again, we all get the same information. And let the states and counties then prepare or train their citizens in their state and in their county. This is extremely easy. This is easy to do. Like I said, our emergency services is phenomenal across the United States, so let's tap into that resource and use them. You can learn about FEMA by going to FEMA.gov. You know, another good source in Montana for wildland fire incidents is FireSafe Montana, FireWise Montana. All of those have information for you that you could use as citizens of the state of Montana to prepare for a wildland fire within the state of Montana. So now we've talked about problems and solutions. Does any of my audience have any questions for me? Go ahead.
You talked about cell phones being turned off. Will the regular phone system also be turned off? The hard lines?
Hardline is an antiquated system that not a lot of people have. No wonder there's only a few people out there that have hardlines anymore. So that is a question that they probably won't be turned off because that is pretty much a closed system. To make that system operational, it's closed. It doesn't have the capability that a cell phone has. And the reason they're turning those off is they're trying to eliminate the detonation device. So if there's multiple sites that these groups that do not like the United States, they can use and set multiple sites off with one cell phone.
So if there are no cell phones and the hard lines are not going to be widely used, are you saying that handheld radios, short-range radios are the way to try to communicate?
Yeah, you could use walkie-talkies. You know, you can buy walkie-talkies that'll have a pretty good range that you could give to your children or your family members or someone that you would have to communicate with. That's actually a good idea. So that would be a source that you would be able to tap into. Most of the walkie-talkie radios that you can buy won't interfere with ham operators, ham radio operators, or any of those. They're on their own frequency. Emergency services is all on their own frequency. It's all digital, so you can't tap into that unless you have authorization to go onto that system. You're welcome. Thank you. Go ahead.
You said that we should have a meeting spot that if something happens that to tell everybody. Is a wide open spot
That would be good. The one thing about Sierra Park is there's power lines, you have to watch for those. Along Sierra Road, there's power lines, above ground power lines. But Sierra Park would be a good place to meet. It's open, there's not a lot of water mains, not a lot of hydrants, any of that stuff, so that'd be a good spot if you can get under or across the power line. So normally I wouldn't recommend that, but if that's the only place you can go, then, you know. Well, let's talk about that. So an earthquake, if we have an earthquake, total destruction, 6.7 and above, you're going to start seeing some real damage. You could have total destruction. We hope that won't occur. But a meeting place should be 4 times the height of the building away from the building or the location that you're in. So 4 times the height. And this building, I would count the basement as a floor, which is going to give you a little extra cushion. And so we're talking almost 150 feet away. That's going to eliminate you being hit by flying debris, glass, whatever else that may fly out of a building that has been severely damaged or total destruction. So 4 times the height, that's where your meeting place is going to be. So, good question. Go ahead.
If I'm making myself an emergency supply kit, where's the best place to store that? Somewhere in the house, in a closet, in the garage? Where's the best place to have it?
I would put that, if I was you, I would put that inside of a closet in the center of a structure. That way it's going to be, there's going to be some safety in that closet until the shaking stops and you can exit. If you can get that out with you, that kit, so we don't want to make it too heavy, but I would make sure that you can carry it with you when you exit the building,
Okay.
that you can have that with you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Go ahead.
Over the news today that ISIS is in Texas. Right, the United States is worried right now that there's going to be more and more of this kind of stuff is going to start taking place.
Right. Domestic terrorism is going to become an issue in the United States
Very fast, yeah.
and we need to be prepared. So let's talk about suspicious package, suspicious truck, suspicious individuals, because these individuals are already here. There's several groups, several cultures that are represented in the United States. Some of, or all of those cultures have a hatred for the United States. And so all of these groups are connected. They talk. And so, you know, suicide bombers, it's cheap, it's easy. Detonation device is cheap. You can buy a detonation device at Walmart. And they are sophisticated, they're smart. And so we need to start this national training and preparedness program. I mean, this is something that we need to focus on because there's a lot of talk about domestic terrorism that is going to start to occur. And not that the United States is bad. The United States is, as a country, very welcoming and very forgiving. We've spent a lot of money on 9/11. We're still spending money on 9/11, but we're letting certain groups, or all groups, into the United States that do not like us. I'm all for everybody making a better life. I'm all for that. But we need to have some criteria. All of these groups are talking. And like the gentleman said, ISIS has already taken responsibility for the shooting in Texas already. So we need to be prepared. We have some people in some positions that shouldn't be in these positions that they're in. They have no background in emergency management, none, but they're in these positions. We need to work at getting those filtered out, getting people with some years of experience that can develop a plan, a program that's going to keep our employees safe, our family members safe, and this national training program is not, it's not hard. All we need, the hardest hurdle, like I said, is funding. We need to get it funded. And we would be set. Are we gonna stop it? Probably not, but being prepared, that's what we're looking for. But back to suspicious package, suspicious people, don't be afraid to contact 911. Law enforcement will come and check this stuff out. They want to check it out. So don't be intimidated by 911. Don't think that you're going to make or the dispatchers busier or be inconvenienced. I'd rather have them be inconvenienced than have some sort of incident happen that we should have called on. So, suspicious package. You're looking at something that's been sitting around, nobody's come around it. You know, and you can say suspicious package and people will start to disperse. You know, we can start training on that. And like I said, it's an easy program. We just need to get it up and running, you know. So that concludes my speech today. I appreciate all you guys taking time to come to my speech. I thank you for the questions. Like I said, FEMA is a good resource. Ready.gov is a good resource. Fire Safe Montana, if you want to learn about wildland fires, is another good source. That concludes my speech. Thank you very much.